Hello and welcome to part 2 of Who Can Tell the Future the Best. Let's start with the updated and extended ranking list. I updated the old list to the current date, which is January the 13th. And I added 9 more YouTubers who were suggested by you in the comments. As in the old list, Crypto Gurus is on position 1, closely followed by In It for the Money on position 2. If you would compare their average performances to the old list, you would see a decrease of about 3 to 5%. This is, I believe, because of the massive market drops in the last days. But, however, it is nice to see that the positions in relation to each other stays the same. Because that means that, in general, the analysis does not strongly depend on the market performance. On place 3 we see David Hay, followed by the first new crypto YouTuber, Cryptolark, on place 4, with an average performance of 10.36% per day, which is just about 2% per day behind position 1. Then Datadash, Crypto Fiend, Crypto Crow, Keith Waring, Superman Udemy, Altcoin Buzz on position 11, Bitcoin Benny, then The Right Trader, followed by Ha-Jin Lee on position 13. I did an especially thorough analysis on his channel because he is the only chart analyst in this ranking. I have to say, I was not very surprised that his performance is just a little bit over the market performance, which you should keep in mind would be 0% per day. I do not believe in chart analysis, but if you know someone who you believe rocks the crypto world or the stock market with chart analysis, I would love if you wrote his name in the comments so I can make an analysis on his or her channel. I would love to be convinced otherwise. On place 14, Crypto Daily, followed by Box Mining, Vincent Briatore, Teen Investor, and still on the last position, Kryptonic. Now, I think it is the time to discuss some of your comments that might be interesting for everyone. Let's start with 1M. He wrote, "Wow, you are really whispering, lol." I had to laugh when I saw his comment, because I thought that crypto whispering would indicate that it could be an ASMR whisper video, but of course crypto whisperer could also mean something else, like I'm whispering the future of cryptos, which is also nice. However, currently most videos are in ASMR style, but I know that some of you might hate this. So, in the future, I will try to upload to every ASMR video a non-ASMR version. Turlock commented, "Do you mean compounded average return? That means I invested $100, the average return per day is 15%. After 3 days, my expected return is going to be 100 plus 15 plus 15 plus 15, or 100 times 1.15 to the third order." I think this comment is very important because I did not make this clear in my last video. When I'm talking about the average performance, I do not mean the compound interest. Instead, I indeed mean that you gain 15% per day just on your initial capital. Furthermore, please don't forget that the performance I give to you is on top of the market performance. That means it can be used to compare the crypto YouTubers, but it does not give you your absolute income. Currently, the market performs great, so your gain will be even more than 15% per day. Let's say the market performs with 10% per day, you would gain 25% per day. But if something terrible would happen and the market would collapse with a performance loss of minus 30% per day or something like this, you would lose money, even though the average performance of the YouTuber is a plus. It would be minus 30% plus 15%, still minus 15% per day. Please keep this in mind. Dan Bao wrote, "Take into account, Crypto Guru seems to be promoting Ponzi's. The one in second position talks about serious projects. I will not comment on this, if this is true or wrong, because my analysis does not depend on it. The equation that I use is not looking into a person. It just takes into account the results of the performance. By this, it is not more and not less, but a strong statistical indicator for the performance of a YouTube channel. If you want to feel even more secure, you can of course do a fundamental analysis, which is what Dan Bao suggests. Maybe I will add this in future videos." Sir JK commented, "Thanks for such a great whispering video. Can you please explain what does the error column mean?" This is the last comment I will discuss, and I will discuss this very thoroughly, so if you're not interested into statistics, you can end this now. But in my opinion, now you have the chance to learn about one of the most important tools of science. So, let's begin. What does the error tell us? In general, the error is just an indicator for the spread of the performance of the coins. A small error would indicate that the performance of the coins does not differ very much. A large error would say that there are large performance discrepancies between the coins. This in general. Let's go even more into detail. I think if you really want to understand the standard error, I have to start some steps earlier. What you see here is a histogram. A histogram is just a graph where you can see the number of a sample. Here it's just the number of coins against the performance. So here you see that around 1 coin is in a performance interval between 1 and maybe 4% per day. About 10 coins are in an interval from 4 to 6% per day, and the most coins, more than 20, are in between 7 and 8% per day. For higher performances, the coins are getting fewer. This is not the real graph from me. This is a standardized version to make it more obvious. So now you know what a histogram is. If you increase the number of samples, you can make more intervals which are finer. This will look like this. But for this you will need a high number of coins, because if you have a low number of coins, it would not reflect the true distribution. If we would take this into extreme, and let's say you just have 10 coins, but 1,000 intervals, then most probably you would just have 1 coin in 1 interval, and then many intervals with no coins, and then again 1 coin in 1 interval, so it wouldn't say anything. If we, however, further increase the number of samples and the number of intervals, it begins to look like a very well-known curve. Maybe you already know where this is going. If we increase the number of intervals infinitely, we will get a Gaussian bell curve. So, the Gaussian bell curve does nothing else but reflect the distribution of something that is not discrete and constant, but varies in its value. Now it gets really serious, since we don't have a discrete distribution with intervals like in our histogram. We cannot say that a number of coins is in this or that interval, at least not directly. We have instead a smooth curve, and if we want to work with this curve, we need to use integration. That means if we want to know how many coins are in a defined interval, we have to integrate over that interval. That's why we no longer have a number or even a probability on the y-axis, but a probability density. This, of course, is very abstract, and I will give you an example later, but please try to follow me and try to understand. If we take a look into the standard error, which is also called sigma, we have a defined interval over that we would need to integrate to get the number of samples or coins in this interval, and the standard error is defined that inside of it, that means in both directions around our mean value, we have 68.2% of all samples. This number comes from 1 sigma to the left direction, which equals 34.1%, plus 1 sigma to the right direction, which is again 34.1%. We can also take this further to a 2 sigma area around our mean value. Here we get an additional 30.6% on each side, which makes a total of 85.4% in the interval of 2 sigmas around the mean value. If we would integrate over the whole curve, we would get 100%. So we would get every sample existing. Let's talk about one example. This is totally made up. I have no idea about taxons, and I don't know how much they grow and how high they are. So if you are a taxon fan, please don't get angry. Okay. What we see here is that the average height of taxons are 25 centimeters. One standard error away, we have 20 centimeter and 30 centimeter. That means that 68.2% of all taxons have a height between 20 and 30 centimeters. 2 standard errors away, we have the interval from 15 to 35 centimeters, and so on. So in this case, the average height is 25 centimeters, and the standard error, which is also called 1 sigma, is 5 centimeters. So now let's talk about a real example from In It for the Money. Here you can see his Gaussian distribution. In the middle, at 12% per day, is his mean value, which you can find in the ranking list. His standard error, 1 sigma, is 22.4% per day. So, what does this mean? If you would just pick one coin from his predictions, you would have a chance of 34.1 plus 34.1 equals 68.2% that this coin would perform in between minus 10.4 to 32.4% per day. I think this graph shows very nicely how important it is to diversify, even if you follow a crypto YouTuber with a high average performance. Because if you would just pick one coin, you have the risk that this coin fails dramatically. Even though the chances are low, the coin could perform with minus 55% or minus 60% or even less. But if you pick more and more coins, I I would start with at least 5 coins. Your chances increase that you get the mean value of the YouTuber, and that is where you want to go. So, I hope I was able to give you some insight on the statistics of my analysis, which are exactly the same that I use each day in my job as a physicist, and I hope it was not too boring for you, even though you may be sleeping right now. So, again, thanks for watching, have a nice week, and good luck with your investigation.